Hey man, I got a question for you. Why do we feel so bad for growing apart from some certain people when the whole point of life was to grow and to be better? Maybe it's because of the people that we have to grow apart from is the same people that we always thought that we would grow with. The same people that we have to say goodbye to are the same ones that we always thought would be there. The same ones we have to walk away from are the ones that we always thought would be right there holding our hand. It's hard to say goodbye to those type of people because you've built such a connection to them and they become such an integral part of your life. It's like, how do I walk away from that, knowing that I still love you, knowing that you will always have a piece of my heart, knowing that some of the best memories of my life came from being created with you. Like, how do I grow from that? And you know what? I think that's why a lot of people stay much longer than they really intend to when it comes to relationships and friendships and so many other things, is because we're afraid to see what our life look like without that person around. We honestly don't even really know who we are if that person isn't around. So instead of outgrowing them and walking away from them and growing apart from them, even though we know that we really have already in our mind and our heart, we know it. But just something in us will not allow our body to physically walk away. Because we know in the back of our mind, I'm not really sure what my life looks like without you. Because, I remember, man, I was connected to this amazing woman in my life. And when I first met her, I always knew that she would be the one. Like I always knew that she would be in my life forever. Like, she grew me in ways I didn't even know I could grow. She showed and taught me things that I didn't even know. But it gets to a point in your life where the conversations start to get shorter. Like, the mindset and the priorities of what matters most in your life to you starts to change. Like, the things that you focus on and the things that you love and the things that you want to do with your life, they just start to evolve from when you first met that person. And one of the worst feelings in the world is when you realize, like, damn, my priorities changed, but so did yours. Is when you realize, damn, my mindset changed, but maybe yours didn't. Or maybe my focus is on this now, but your focus is somewhere way over there. And maybe we just don't have the same things in common like we used to. Maybe we don't have that much to talk about like we used to. Maybe we are just literally in just two different places in our life and focus on so many other things in our life that I just can't give you the focus and the time and the energy and the version of me that you fell in love with. So as much as I wanted to grow with you and I was hoping for you to be in my life for the rest of my life, maybe I got to go back out into this world with this new version of me that I've evolved into with a great part to do with you. You're the reason for this. Maybe I got to go back into this world with this new version of me and find a new love, find a new friendship, find a new relationship. See, but sometimes when you have to walk away from people that you really love and that you outgrow, one of the hardest things you have to make them understand, especially if you leave on good terms with them or you leave with no beef, is making them understand that I'm always going to love you regardless of what we go through. Regardless of how we have grown into them, I'm always going to have that love and that respect for you. Again, I'm not the same person that I used to be. But let me ask you a question. Why do we feel so bad for wanting to grow? Why do we feel so bad for wanting to evolve and for wanting to be better than we used to be? I think this guilt comes in from it because it's like you feel like you almost owe this person. Like I can't give up on you. I can't walk out of your life. I can't leave you, because it's like, not only do I not know what I'm going to look like in my life without you, but to be honest, I'm afraid to see what your life will look like without me in it. I'm afraid to see you move on and to become a different person. I'm afraid to see you fall in love with somebody else. I'm afraid to see you become a mother to someone else's kids, or a father to someone else's kids. I'm afraid to see you find the new friendships and to become the new version of you. I'm afraid to see that. Or you feel like maybe you're letting them down. So imagine how many people walking around in this world settling and overstaying their welcome in people's lives that they outgrew a long time ago because they're simply afraid to let go. Or they let the history and the love and the loyalty that they have for this person make them stay in that person's life much longer than they should. And it gets so bad to the point where you start to like literally make yourself miserable. Because you know you're suppressing your gifts and your talent and your growth. All for the sake of this person. And that's a tricky place to be in, man, because it's like, yeah, I'm making you happy by staying around, but being here is making me miserable. And so what I really want to get into today is talking about having to outgrow a person that you always loved. Having to move on from a person that you thought would never leave, or that you thought you would never leave. Because it ain't always going to be, leaving in like a hectic manner. Sometimes two people just grow apart. And again, like I said earlier, they talk less, they have less in common, their schedules start to change and they have a little less time for one another. See, because outgrowing people, it doesn't always happen in an instant. Sometimes it slowly happens over time. What used to be hanging out every day turns out to hanging out once a week. And what used to be hanging out once a week turns out to talking once a month. And what used to be talking once a month turns out to talking every 6 months. And what used to be talking every 6 months, talk about just being able to see a person's story and just being able to like it and shooting a DM every once in a while and just hoping that they're doing okay. And then there's those other type of outgrowing people where it does maybe happen at an instant and we never really talk again. It's crazy how quick that stuff can happen. So it's this thing that I thought about when it talks about loyalty and alignment. See, because sometimes we confuse loyalty with attachment. Like we want to prove how loyal we are and how down we are and how much of a rider that we are for certain people, that we don't even realize what it really is that we're attached to this certain person and we don't know how to let go of that. Because the real question I want to ask you is that, yeah, you may be loyal. Yeah, you may be a rider. Yeah, you may have been in this person's life for a long time. But what if you staying and you being here? What if that's actually hurting you? Because just because we've been together this long and just because we've been in each other's lives this long doesn't mean that it's supposed to last forever. So as loyal as you are, as much of a rider as you are, that doesn't mean you have to stay there. And maybe you're at a place in your life where you still love them, but damn, maybe you have to love them from a distance. And that's hard. And this is some of the signs that you can look for when you want to realize that you're starting to outgrow the connection, because things like That lack of support is starting to show. Maybe there's a little bit of a jealousy. And maybe you start to realize, like, damn, we really do have different values in our life. Like the things that we just simply care about are just different. Like when I first met you, our values aligned perfectly. What mattered most to us. But now we're at a place in our life where our values are just not the same. And see, a lot of times we don't think that's a big deal when they talk about your values aligning, because they don't have to be the exact same. But I think when it comes to relationships and friendships and the people that we connect to, they don't have to be the exact same when it comes to our values, but we do have to have enough in common to help us click and to help us stick together. Because if our values are on two totally different pages, there's going to come an instance in a situation in our life where those values or those lack thereof are going to show up. And you're going to see a version of that person that you just don't agree with. And if you keep allowing yourself to stay connected to that person that has a different set of values than you, then that love that you so desperately have for that person, it may slowly start to fade away because they're showing you a version of them that you never fell in love with before. Because the version of them you fell in love with was a whole different person. And now maybe the version that you're becoming is a whole different person. Therefore, the version that they're becoming is a whole different person. And since that's not the person that you fell in love with, what do? Do I find a way to reconnect with you and rediscover who you are and love this new version of you? Or do I realize and I have to be real with myself and say, damn, maybe we just two different people now? You know, because they say that's the definition of what real love is that no matter what season that person is in your life may be in, and no matter how much that season of their life may change them, is you being willing to figure out and learn them and relearn them and re-love them and love them in new ways that you may have never loved them before. But think about that. It's impossible to do that with every single person in your life. That's why we focus on doing that with our person. But I guess it really comes down to you asking yourself, is this relationship worth it for me to take the time and the energy and the effort that it takes to relearn and to rediscover this person and who they are? Or am I going to have to just accept the fact that we are two different people in two different paths of our life now, and things are just going to be different between us? And that's one of the hardest truths that we may ever have to face. And some of those other signs is when you start to feel like emotionally drained around them, which is a perfect point within itself. Pay attention to how you feel around people. If every time you come around that certain person and you immediately start to feel drained, and your whole mood starts to change, your anxiety goes up or your depression comes down, your mind gets to racing every time you're around this person, we got to listen to that. Because it's your body trying to tell you something. But you know what we do? A lot of times we ignore that inner voice inside our head that's trying to get our attention when we're around that person that's making us feel a certain type of way. Why? Because we love them. We don't want to accept the fact that they make us feel a certain way that we may have never felt the way around them before. We don't want to accept that, so we ignore it. Therefore, us feeling miserable and sitting and sulking and settling in that because we simply don't want to let them go. I think I give you a prime example of that. Have you ever heard two people, when they finally break up with one another or they finally end the friendship or whatever the case may be, and they say, yeah, we broke up on, August 21st, but the relationship was over really in January. What they're telling you is that mentally, I checked out of this relationship or this friendship a long time ago, but something in me just couldn't simply let go of them for another 6 months or another year or another 5 years, or another 10 years. Something in me just simply couldn't let go. But mentally and in my heart, I was out of it. But it was my body physically that I couldn't seem to bring along. And so we stay in these situations much longer than we should. And the only person that really is suffering is us. And a lot of times we can love a person so much, even though we know we need to let them go and we need to walk away, that we're afraid to see them hurting and crying from what might come from us telling them the truth and letting them know that we need to walk away, or we might need to take a step back from them. It's hurt to see the people you love in pain. And because we know that and we feel that and we may have that little bit of guilt in the back of our mind, once again, we suppress our feelings. We ignore those signs. We ignore that little voice in the back of our head. And we stay with people much longer than we should. And to be honest with you, man, that's just unfair to you. And the more I'm living, I'm starting to realize that as much as it may hurt them and as much as it hurts me to hurt the people that I love, sometimes we got to cause them a little bit of temporary pain in order to free ourselves and make ourselves happy again. Because there's no point in both of us suffering. And as much as you want to choose other people that you love, man, there's going to come some times in your life, some really hard times in your life where you want to choose the people you love, but you're going to have to make a decision and choose you too. And in order to choose you, that's going to mean having to let some people down. That's going to mean having to tell some people no. That's going to mean having to change your mind on some people. That's going to mean having to tell some people some hard truths. Because you done chose those people 1,000 times. But once again, I ask you, man, how many times have you chose you? And choosing you is sometimes having to outgrow people that you really love. That's real. The next thing nobody really talks about when you come to this situation is this silent grief of separation. Because now that's this instance where I'm grieving a person that's still alive. That's that instant where the memories I created with that person just keep replaying in my head. That's that instant where I go through my phone and I go through my memories on Snapchat, or I go through my memories in my gallery, and I start to see all of the videos and all of the pictures and all of the happy moments that we had. That's the instant where I'm watching my favorite show and I realize, damn, that was our favorite show. That's the instant where I'm out in public and I just so happen to run into you, and I gotta pretend like everything is okay when inside I'm hurting. That's the instant where you gotta fight yourself every day just to not give back in and go back to the norm and go back to that attachment that you have been feeling, when you really want to give in and go back to what's normal and what's easy for you. Because I ain't gonna lie, when you really love somebody, it's not even so much the letting go that's hard. It's the staying gone. That's the hardest part. Because the moment you see them, the moment something happens, the moment something reminds you of them, the first thing you want to do is reach out. The first moment of boredom, the first moment of vulnerability, all you want is that person that was your comfort. But choosing not to reach out, choosing to stay gone, choosing to stand on your boundaries and stand on what it is you said you were going to do, I think that's the part of growing too. Staying true to your word, you know what I'm saying? As hard as that may be. And that shit tough. But nobody talks about that, man. Grieving the people that are still alive. Walking away from the people with all those memories, all those happy times, all of those cherishable moments. And realizing all you ever have is those in the back of your mind, in the back of your heart, and still trying to open up your heart, right? Enough to let somebody new in. That's hard, man. But one thing I want you to do, and I want to challenge you with this, is I want you to leave and outgrow that situation with love. I think we live in this world now where it's like it's almost cool to be toxic and to be bitter and to be hateful and to be hurtful and to see how much lower I can go than the other person. How much more I can hurt the other person than they hurt me. It's almost like glorified in this world that we live in. But I think one of the most courageous things you can do, one of the most adult things you can do, one of the most player things you can really do is to outgrow a person, is to walk away from a person, is to say goodbye to a person that you really love, and to actually leave that situation with love. Letting them know, man, I don't want to walk away with any grudges. I don't want to walk away with any anger. I don't want to walk away with any bitterness. I don't want to walk away with any type of hate in my heart for you. Even if you hurt me. I may never give you the same version of me, but I also don't want to hate you. Because one, life is just too short for that. And then again, two, how can I make room in my heart for somebody else to be able to love me and for me to be able to love them fully if I'm giving so much of my real estate to you? And again, it's hard. But that's one thing I really want to challenge you to do, man, is to leave that situation with love. And I want to leave you with this before I go. The people that are meant for you, they won't bring out your depression. They won't bring out your anxiety. They won't make you go back to the version of you that you used to be. They embrace the version that you're becoming. They embrace the version of you and help you become a version of you that you didn't even know existed in you. Their priorities may not be exactly like yours, but there's some alignment there. They just get you. They don't shrink you. They're part of the reason that you grow. They don't make you settle. They're part of the reason you're successful. They don't make you feel less than. I think the people that truly love you and are meant to be in your life remind you of just how special you really are. And so the people in your life aren't doing that, right? They ain't doing that for you. Then you got to make a decision for yourself. And you got to say something where I'm always going to love you. If you really need me, I'll always be there. Because you got a special place in my heart that don't many people have. But the version of me that I am now versus the version of me that you met when we first fell in love, those are just two different people. And I don't know if this version of me is one that can love you in the same way. And again, that's going to hurt to say to somebody you love. That's going to suck to say to somebody you love. But again, you done chose other people 1,000 times in your life trying to make them happy. And what I hope is that for once, you choose you and make you happy. Because you deserve that too. I love you, man. That concludes this episode of SpeakUPZee the Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Until the next one, all right? Peace.